I just think it's very dangerous for anybody in public office to be saying somebody is innocent and this is just a sham and a political sham before they know the evidence that will be presented. And none of them know the evidence that the federal government has.
The Speaker of the House, right?
Yeah.
Says in a statement today he stands with President Trump against this grave injustice. House Republicans will hold this brazen weaponization of power accountable. They don't know what the charges are yet, to your point.
Well, most importantly, they don't know what the evidence is.
Yes.
And that's even bigger than the charges, because if they have Trump on tape, if they have witnesses that were in the room with Trump, that were his supporters. Now, are they going to move the 30% of the Republican Party that's going to be with Trump no matter what? They probably are going to even be more for Trump now. No. And maybe Trump gets the nomination with an ankle bracelet. That remains to be seen. Wouldn't surprise me that he gets the nomination with an ankle bracelet.
Dan, President Trump nomination with an ankle bracelet. Unpack that for a second. But also, and specifically because of your time in the White House has not released a statement here. Biden very much wants to keep his distance on this. My guess is he's going to have to say something at some point. How should Democrats talk about this? Because it is a dark day in a lot of ways, as Claire outlined.
Well, the White House absolutely should not say anything. I've seen reports that they learned about this from the news, which is exactly appropriate. It's why we have a special counsel. It's why the Justice Department is held independent. I promise you that when the president's asked about it, he will not comment on it. He will walk away from it. The White House will do. That's the right thing to do. If other Democrats want to talk about it, that's fine. What I'm going to be looking for in terms of the politics is what are Trump's Republican opponents going to say about it? I don't expect that they're all of a sudden going to care a lot about classified information or the morality of these things, but are they going to make an electability case against Trump? Are they going to point out that it's going to be that you don't want a nominee with an ankle bracelet? You don't want a nominee who is facing multiple indictments. We could have another indictment next month. We could have an entire summer of indictments of Trump. And so that's sort of, I think, it's too early to say what the politics will be. But I am not ready to assume that this indictment will strengthen his hand like the one in Manhattan did a few months ago.
Yeah, Claire, that has been the calculus thus far. That what doesn't kill Trump makes him stronger, and he will use this to his own partisan ends. I kind of wonder whether this is different.
It may be, especially when the evidence comes out. If it's his words on tape, if there are people that were close to Trump that are providing evidence that is strong and solid, then it may move people off of him. The question is, who wins in that situation?
Yeah.
I mean, which of, we've got, 9 people running now, which all works to his benefit. Some of them would have to drop out and coalesce around another candidate, because right now, even if some drop away, he is in a dominant position within their primary. And frankly, McCarthy is saying I stand with him. McCarthy can't even move a bill in the House right now.
Well,
I mean, it is chaos city in the Republican Party right now, from top to bottom.
Dan, we know that Ron DeSantis has called this the weaponization of federal law enforcement. He is going to be in an odd position on the campaign trail, saying that Donald Trump is unfit, but also that these charges represent some kind of federal overreach.
Yeah, I think what he will probably do is try to make some argument about how Trump is innocent or this is the weaponization, but he can't win because of it. And so we'll see that. And I think the Kevin McCarthy statement is so interesting because it is directly related to the fact that he can't move a bill through the House right now because he is being held hostage by the biggest Trump supporters in the caucus who can decide whether he keeps his job. So, of course, the first thing he is going to do is go out and defend Trump to try to regain the love of Matt Gaetz and the rest of the Freedom Caucus types.
The never-ending courtship of the far-right MAGA caucus. Dan Pfeiffer, Claire McCaskill, thank you both.